Welcome to the Founders Corner, brought to you by OneBridge Accounting. Here's your host, Eli Clark. Hey everyone, Eli Clark here, co-founder and CEO of OneBridge Accounting and host of the Founders Corner podcast. Today's guest is Alix Condit, the owner of Cucamonda Media. Alix, very excited to have you. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, Alix, to get us started, would you mind introducing yourself? Just kind of tell people who you are, what you do, and what makes you a little bit unique.
Yeah, so Cucamonda Media started around 3 years ago. We're a full service marketing agency, which means we help with paid ads, email marketing, social media, both organic and paid, brand and website design, SEO, and beyond. A big thing for us is content creation. My background's in photography and videography. I started freelancing when I was 15 in the space and just saw a big disconnect between the content creation piece of marketing and then the actual marketing strategy. And so for us, a big thing is really being intentional and strategic in how we're creating content. If you're being strategic on social media, that's going to look dramatically different content-wise than what you want on your very optimized website with kind of that high quality content. And so for us, content is always the focus of everything that we do.
I love that. That content focus is super important, especially like people consume so much content nowadays, right? Like whether it's video or text or whatever. So excited to kind of talk about that a little bit today. I think it'll be fun. Let's dive into your experience a little bit. Kind of tell us what brought you to where you are today.
Yeah, so I love the photo and video side of things. I shot seniors and families and weddings when I first started, but way more enjoyed like the branding piece of things. I went to school for photojournalism, but always just loved like the marketing, storytelling, and helping business owners really bring their vision to life. So for us, like that's been a huge focus. And then I also worked in social media marketing before starting this. And so pairing the two together so that I can create like really intentional content. We all know that social media content's not just about like the copy and different things. Everyone has the shortest attention spans ever. And so creating really intentional content that hooks the viewer right away, that keeps them engaged, and that long-term builds community. We're seeing more and more series content coming out where people post multiple videos and they're kind of watching along as those come out. I think that social media piece is something that was just always really fun for me. Like even just my background, I worked for some pretty like what people call boring businesses, which are they have great profit margins, but they're definitely not.
Yeah, usually, right?
Yeah. They're not always like the most social media focused, but even just taking that challenge and really utilizing the community building piece of social media and using that for any type of business. I just love that challenge. And I think having a niche in an industry is not necessarily like what fills my cup, but having the niche that is social media and just really knowing the platforms and the algorithms and using that for any type of business is really how I think I have the most fun. It's a challenge. You always get to see a variety of different businesses, but the ever-changing algorithm is kind of what is true. Like, you know that social media is designed to be addictive. And when you approach it at that mindset, and kind of use that in not in a slimy way, but to your advantage to help business owners really tell their story and build up people that have a mission and values behind their business as opposed to the big name businesses that we all know and kind of hate because they're not really based in anything. That's where I think, I just fell in love with that side of things. And that's when I started my business and just wanted to grow our team so that I know I can add value in social media, but there's so much more that goes into marketing. And so how can we build that all-encompassing team that can build this beautiful brand that then translates to social media, that can run those paid ads? That's very analytical and not necessarily like the creative side. I like analytics from an organic perspective, but paid ads is a whole nother beast. And so I wanted to bring in all those different players so that we could add the most value for these business owners.
Love that. I think, a lot of people get into business for some sort of purpose or value or, initiative. And you mentioned something early on when you're talking about boring businesses. And I love that personally, because I think traditionally accounting is considered a boring business. So, I mean, I'm a fan of it, right? But how do you do social? Just going on that maybe a tangent for a little bit, but how do you do social for, quote unquote, boring businesses so it's interesting and people are engaged?
Yeah, I mean, in this day and age, we all know that there's a lot of power in your money and where you spend it. I think a lot of people, specifically younger people, are really being accountable and where they spend their money and making sure that they're supporting businesses that align with their values and their missions in their life. And so I think that's a huge play that we use for organic social media is how this business aligns with you. Like, how are they giving back to their community? What are their values in terms of taking care of you, and where do they go above and beyond in their services? And really not always building it around a specific
Mhm.
person, but how are we supporting, like, do they take care of their employees? Like, all of that really matters to buyers now. It's not just, can you give me the best bang for my buck? It's more of, is this a business that I would love to see succeed? I'm going to spend a little bit more money to support someone that is supporting the things that matter to me. And so I think just taking into account that the way you use your dollars is a form of protest, and people take that into account. And so how can we kind of bring out that story and make sure that this business is worth supporting to people that are aligned there?
Very interesting. Very similar to, I guess, values-based marketing, right? Or maybe social impact marketing, where your focus is not just on profit, but it's on the impact that you have as a company or as a business on people or on the community or on, wherever your reach is, right?
And I don't think it always has to be that large scale. Like, sometimes you support someone 'cause you're like, "I think we could be friends." And you see them on social and you're like, "This is fun. I relate to you." And so it doesn't always have to be like this crazy, like, here's this huge impact that we're making, but I do think people want someone that they relate to, that they, like, feel excited to support. Sometimes that's just a mom that said, like, "I quit my 9 to 5 so I could
Mhm.
be involved with my kids and work while they take their naps." And, like, that to me is, like, amazing. Like, I'd love to support you. Like, you're taking risks to live the life that you wanna live, and you giving back is just to, like, your 2 little humans, and that's maybe not the biggest impact, but I still think that's a really big deal. And if someone can live a life
Mhm.
that's valuable to them, like, there's different ways that we shift it for different people, because some people have, like, big things that they're
Yeah,
supporting,
big
and then some
impact, big
people
goals, yeah.
yeah, big impacts or small impacts. I think people wanna support both. It's just, how do you tell that story and let people resonate? The way that they would support a friend, they're gonna support you.
Yeah, it comes down to the story that we're supporting, right?
Yeah.
The people behind the stories, right? And, I guess that's a big part of marketing or messaging, and especially social, organic is telling that story in a way that is natural and authentic, right? So that's the fun part about social, I guess, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, let's dive in and talk a little bit about kind of early agency. Would love to get your thoughts and experience on that. What were some, I guess, of the most unexpected things that you learned kind of starting out your agency, running it from the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, I was really lucky to have found freelance so young. I know I mentioned I started at 15, so I think I got to learn a little bit slower than the average person, because I was just, like, doing that on the side. It helped pay for college. It was just, like, something that I did for fun. So I think for, like, where a lot of people struggle with, like, the bookkeeping and the accounting, and they're like, "Shoot, I just did a year of being, like, really messy." My first year, I probably did, like, 10 to 15 gigs, and so there wasn't, like, a whole lot of room to make an irreversible mistake. So I think that was really nice, of, like, the slow lead up. I think the things that shocked me the most were just, like, the amount of work that comes in from building a team. I knew that was something that I wanted, and I knew that a team would make my life easier in a lot of ways, but I think just, like, all of the nitty-gritty, like, I'm a very creative person, and so then when someone puts in front of me, like, "Hey, you also have to, like, follow all these, like, super niche, boring laws that you don't have to read in depth, and, like, work with a lawyer to build a contract, and here's a bunch of accounting information that you had no idea existed." I think, like, the overwhelm of things,
Yeah.
like, my brain doesn't work in that way. And I did this because, like, I wanted to be a creative, but now I'm doing this. I think that was probably, like, the biggest wake-up call, but I found through trial and error some really great partners where I just outsource to them and I trust them, and then
Mhm.
they deal with that, and I get to keep doing what I'm good at and they do what they're good at. But I think it definitely is, like, trial and error. Like, I've worked with some people where it was just, like, it wasn't quite aligned on how I wanted to build my business and how they were kind of supporting me and building out different detailed items, but after 3 years, I feel like I have a good grasp on, like, who my go-to people are, and I think that's, like,
Right.
the biggest thing is finding, like, your own extension of your team. Like, we're obviously an extension of other business owners' teams, but we still need an extension of our team for those other things that we're not so good at.
No, yeah, so true. I think, that's especially true in the creative and the marketing spaces. You're so focused in on the client work, that often all the other but business stuff kind of gets put down and shoved to the corner, right? Whether that's the accounting or whether that's the finance or that's the legal stuff, right? But those are all important aspects of running a company that sometimes we forget about. We just have to overcome eventually, right? Or we get in trouble, right?
Yeah. No, I think even our, like, own marketing gets pushed back all the time, like,
Yep,
we've
totally.
had a great run with referrals, but we're finally, like, investing in our marketing and doing different things like that, but it's really easy to just focus on doing great work for your clients because that's obviously the most important thing, but you can't keep doing that if you don't maintain all the other things.
No, that's so true. Like, I think a lot of businesses have that issue where it's like that balance between prospecting and client work, like finding that balance between those two things. You have to keep prospecting. You can't stop, right?
Yeah,
Because eventually your pipeline's gonna run dry, and you're like, oh shoot, like we got nothing going on. We gotta add to that, right? So.
def
Well, let's dive in. So we jumped on a call a little bit earlier, and we kind of planned out what we wanted to talk about, and I'm excited because today we're going to talk a little bit about community and how do we build community and what does that mean and all those kinds of things. And I'm very excited for today's discussion. So Alex, just to get us started, can you just like help us understand like what is community? What do we mean by that? Like, is that a Facebook group? Is that a newsletter? Is that a feeling? Like, what is community to you?
Yeah, I mean, community can look so different depending on the type of person you are, the brand that you are, like, I mean, traditionally, we've seen community of joining a run club or meeting up with friends for coffee, like, community looks very different depending on your interests and just, like, what you value and who you wanna surround yourself with, and so, I don't think there's any hard and fast rule for what community looks like, but for in terms of social media, it's more than just followers. It's not just, like, "How many followers can I get to join my community?" Like, there's brands that have millions of followers, but their followers couldn't tell you the first thing about them. There's brands that have, like, the tiniest little audience, but everyone in that audience is on the edge of their seat for the next piece of content. And so I think that there's a lot of creators out there that create just like a really intentional community where they don't even have to foster it. The community is fostering itself. So not only are you putting out content, which is great, but your community is putting out content, whether that's conversations in the captions, tagging people, asking questions. That can look like a Facebook group. That can look like an Instagram profile where everyone's just in the comments. It looks different. I mean, obviously, Reddit has great communities where people show up online all the time. I don't think it's platform specific. I think it really comes down to how are you getting people involved and engaged where they remember your name even when they're not on social media. Like there's some creators where I love the content that they put out, but I couldn't tell you their name off the top of my head. I would like see their content again and be like, yeah, it's great. But there's creators where like I can tell you their whole life story because, like, they do such a good job of creating content, and I think that traditionally, people look at that from, like, an influencer perspective. It's like, "Okay, this girl is an amazing community, whatever. I'll buy a top from her because, like, I like her personality." And, like, you don't really think of it from, like, the economic perspective for a brand, and so, obviously, influencers make money, but it's really easy to kind of connotate how they're making money from their community versus business owners. It's a little bit more vague, I think, in how we teach it, but it's super similar. Like, we have one client who is a female founder, and we are, like, pushing, like, show up online, tell everyone the story. Like, it is, I think, oftentimes hard for business owners to really comprehend how interesting what they do is. Like, there's this creator online, she's starting a loungewear company, and she shows, like, word for word, like, "Here's everything I've spent this last month.
Mm.
Here were my expenses. Here's my frustrations." Like, she's really funny about it, and, like, everyone on our team is obsessed with her content. She just does a great job of making you feel like you're, like, her intern that's, like, next to her, hanging.
Part of the journey, right?
Yeah, you're learning
Yeah.
everything as she does, and I think a lot of people out there, whether or not they wanna become a business owner, they're curious, but a lot of people do have that entrepreneurial mindset, and they're like, "Oh, whoa, if she can do it, I can do it. That's such a cool dream." Or there's other people that are like, "I could never do that. That sounds exhausting, but, like, so proud of you. That's so cool. How can I support you? That's awesome that you're pursuing your dream." And I think the more people get that insight, the more they realize, like, "Oh, this is why she has to charge this much. I wouldn't normally spend that much on a hoodie, but, like, she put in all this work, she designed it, she curated it, like, you have all of the context. I guess I can splurge on this hoodie because I'm supporting someone following their dream.
Yeah.
That's, like, a really baseline, like, it can work for so many other types of businesses that aren't necessarily that direct where you're like, "Here's every behind the scene element." There's community building around the mission, values, like, there's just so many different ways that you can community build, but I do think that those are the people that are going to send your post to their friends and be like, "Hey, they just launched this new product. I absolutely love it. You
Right.
have to check it out." And the more you can get word of mouth, I think every marketer ever and anyone that's ever study business for more than a minute knows word of mouth is the most valuable thing. Community
Totally. Yeah.
building is how you build word of mouth. It's just like the easiest way to do it this day and age. And so there's just so many different ways you can do it. And I think it's just one of those things where it's also fun. Like you get to like get feedback and ask people questions. Like business owners can say like, "Hey, I'm debating doing like this or this. What would you enjoy more?" And you actually get to test something out before you invest any time or money into it. And that
Wow.
in itself is so valuable.
To me, just as I'm listening to you, to me, it sounds like I would say one of the top ingredients, if you will, of community building is showing up. Whether that's online, in stories, or that's showing up in a post, or that's showing up, wherever your community is, right? Depending on your business and depending on what you do. Um, what other, I guess, ingredients would you say would be components of building community? So showing up online, it sounds like a core component of that, but what might be some other ingredients? Do you,
Yeah, I think showing up's super important, but I do think also a lot of people say showing up without explaining why. When showing up online, you could show up online for 2 years and you could gain 3 followers. You have to show up really intentionally, and so I think showing up online for your community. Whether your community is 1 person today or a million people today, it doesn't matter. You need to create content for them. So knowing that, like, your ideal audience and obviously taking into account, like, what do I enjoy doing? Like, what pieces of content can I build for my community that I'm actually gonna enjoy and, like, is going to be sustainable for me to create? Like, that should be a thought when you're building this ideal community, but really being intentional of, like, what does that community look like and what gaps can I fill for them? So,
Mm,
that might be,
yeah.
like, they're really interested in seeing the entrepreneurial journey and supporting female founders. Amazing. So I'm going to give them insights into my journey. I'm going to give them insights into how I balance being a mom and a business owner. I'm going to give them XYZ insights, but all of those fill some sort of gap for your ideal audience. You're probably not going to say like this is my favorite restaurant in Denver, Colorado because that's not what this community wants. Now, if you're a food creator or like a marketing agency that wants to support local small businesses and that's part of your mission,
Mhm.
that piece of content can work. But just showing up and posting content, like people are like, just post about your day and post like XYZ, just post. I don't think just posting is always the right answer if you're not thinking about how am I adding value to my community, whether that's educational value, whether that's entertainment value. It doesn't super matter what the value is, but you have to be able to explain where the value lies before you post anything for it to be strategic. And there's a lot more that goes into like building a full all-encompassing strategy, but I do think that when people say show up, if they can just tweak that language a little bit to be like show up and add value to your laid out decided community that you want to
Totally.
build, that's a better way to kind of shift that mindset and still continue to show up. And you learn so much about your community, and then you can like as you build it, you can ask them like, what do you want to see more of? Because the best thing you can do ever is just answer whatever questions they have. Like they're creating the content for you. All you have to do is like, here's your script, go for it.
Mm.
But until you have like a small community, they can't answer those questions for you. So you do kind of have to paint that persona.
Oh, I love that. Showing up, but showing up with value and showing up with content that people want to engage with, or not just engage with, but it's actually helpful or is valuable or is entertaining, right? Depending on what you're trying to do. Are you educating? Are you entertaining? Or, what does that look like? That's key. I love that. How do you rope in maybe some kind of storytelling elements to building community? Like if you mentioned like female founders, for example, you're telling the story of, this is me, I have 2 kids, this is my dream, like that kind of thing. How do you what role does storytelling play as far as coming up with the content, and how does that tie into the strategy of building community?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many elements of storytelling, but I think one thing that we see doing really well across platforms, but specifically on TikTok and Instagrams, is series content. And so, how can you say, like, day one of starting my own business, day two, people follow along and they see those updates? Or you do little challenges where it's like, here's my to do list for the day. And you show up online and you show people like what you're doing in order to build the business. I think there's a lot of different ways that that can work for female founders, whether it's like in phases of here's like phase one of my business and like what I learned, and you just like recap those different phases, like what I learned from launching my business, what I learned from working with a brand designer, and then you can actually like yes, you're saying, like, what I learned from a brand designer and your community's interested in that, but then you're also, like, putting on the screen, like, here's your brand, and you're building that awareness to your brand and that loyalty with those visuals through a piece of content that is completely unrelated to, like, "Look at how cool my brand is," like, "Buy from my store," but it still kind of adds to that messaging, and you want to, as a marketer, like, you are going to do more direct content of, like, "DM me if you're interested.
Right.
Here's a CTA to buy, link in my bio," like, that stuff's going to happen, but that's not where the storytelling piece comes in, and so that series has, like, very little to do with that because it's building that community, engaging them, and then the pieces of content that have more clear CTAs are completely separate, but,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, there's tons of storytelling elements to all aspects, but I think series content, whether you call it a series or not, finding out what works and then repeating it is something that everyone uses in all types of marketing. Social media is no different, and you just have to tweak it a little bit so that people continue to follow along, and I know some people that that's instead of TV shows, that's how they consume their content. They like those series on social media. It feels more genuine, it feels more real as opposed to today's very curated reality TV.
Totally, yeah.
Right? And so I think just, like, knowing your audience and knowing what type of stories they wanna consume, what their attention span is, that storytelling could be an hour-long YouTube video. It could be a 3-minute TikTok. It really depends on who your audience is and what they like to consume, but the more you can learn about your audience, the better you can tell those stories that actually resonate in a format that maintains them so that the algorithm
Mm,
can show it to new people that have similar elements to your existing ideal
mhm.
community and then expands that community.
It makes a lot of sense. I was just thinking about, somebody that I connected with on LinkedIn, and they were doing so I think this works on LinkedIn too, not just on Instagram
Absolutely.
or TikTok, but they were doing a series where, I think they had been doing some freelance work for a year and a half. They're a marketing agency, and it was like, okay, day 1 of 30 days of trying to get to, 20,000 monthly recurring revenue, something like that, right? And, every couple days I'd see, oh, day 4, or day 8 or day whatever, right? And I think that type of story content, like you're saying, allows you to kind of go with the entrepreneur or go with the person who's posting and really feel invested in to some level, right? Depending on how much you get into it, but help you feel invested in their journey and in their story, which is really cool to
Yeah.
have, I guess, that emotional reaction, right, from an
I think
audience.
Yeah, and I think for marketing agencies like that, it's such a good way to build trust. Like, you can show off a case study and be like, "Hey, I got these results. It took me 30 days. Look how good I am at my job." And that's great because, like, it does speak to what you're capable of, but people like to know, like, well, how? Like, why if you can do this once, why could it be repeatable? And so going in a series and kind of showing and building that trust over the course of 30 days and being really clear, like, this is how I accomplished this, and this is, like, the knowledge that I gained from this so that I can replicate this for you, is so much more, um, just inspiring and exciting to get someone to reach out to me like, "Hey, let's have a conversation," than just, like, sending someone a link to your website, which is already hard to get them to even go on and saying, like,
Totally. Mhm.
"Do this."
No, I love that. It's, much more approachable, right? Much more, easier to connect with, right? Versus book now, right? Type of, call to action, right?
Yeah.
I think, going into the next question, there's a lot of demands on our time, whether you're a marketing agency owner or you're just a business owner, right? Of a different type of business. There's a lot of workload that is involved with that. How do you balance telling the story of the business with the workload of the business? And I guess kind of tying into that, let's say you're telling a story and you say, "Hey, I'm trying to get to this goal in 30 days," and you don't achieve the goal, right? Like what do you think that looks like from a storytelling perspective?
Yeah, I think like humans love honesty and failure is relatable. Like
Mm.
you can bring people along on this journey. You can set I love when people are like, I'm setting this atrocious goal for myself. Let's see if I can hit it. And then if they don't hit it, I've seen great concepts where it's like, I didn't hit my goal, but here's everything I learned. I'm going to try again. Now we're super invested.
Love that.
You have like bullet points of everything that you learned and you're going to do it again. Like I followed for the first 30 days. Why wouldn't I follow for the second? Like if this is a cool goal, if it takes you 60 days to achieve it, it's still a cool goal. And so I think the more you can be transparent and honest, I think people love the vulnerability. Like we're so used to curated, reality TV. Like we think it's reality. No one really thinks it's reality.
I don't live that way.
Yeah, like it's so curated. People love honesty, and we all know like social media is curated. It's fairly fake in a lot of different ways. No one's denying that, but I do think that just like the honesty, showing struggles, showing the fact that like being a business owner isn't just like butterflies and rainbows every day. Like it's hard work and other business owners can relate to that. And that's just one example. But people like to know that like this is what I'm dealing with and this is how I'm learning from it. And I think that your ability to like learn and pivot speaks more volumes to your ability to provide good products and services as opposed to someone that just got lucky and it like got $1 bajillion in sales overnight.
Mhm.
Like how are you learning and growing and making this product or service better? I know like from a marketing agency perspective, like my clients want to know how can you pivot when something doesn't go the way you expected it to. Like in marketing, there's never a tried and true, perfect, like guaranteed way that something's going to work. And so
Right.
having in your credentials that you can pivot and learn is way more important for any agency, team member, owner, anything.
Love that. Not making the failure like a big deal or it's the end of the world type of thing, but it's just part of the journey. It's part of the story, right? I mean, everybody loves, the story of the hero, the redemption arc, right? So it's like, continue the story, keep telling us what's working, what isn't working, and bring us along for the ride. That's really cool. Think about it that way.
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see businesses make when they're trying to build community, when they're trying to engage and engage with an audience?
I think a lot of people like to speak at their community instead of with
Mm.
them. And so the more you can really make it feel like you're in the same room as them, it's an open dialogue. Like a great one is like ask me anything on stories. Like you have people asking you questions. So again, going back to the influencer example, instead of just being like, here's my cute outfit, here's my cute outfit, here's my cute outfit, here's what I fed my kids today. It's like, hey, like what questions do you have for me? Like what can I help provide? Like what have you seen of mine that I can link to? How can I make this experience more enjoyable? Then people go in the comments and they're like, "Hey, I saw you went on a vacation to XYZ place last year. What are your tips for this?" This influencer might not have known that that was content that people would be valuable. Like she went into this trip being like, "How amazing and beautiful can I make this look like on social
Yeah.
media so people are jealous?" But the reality is like the most valuable piece of content was how you booked your flights, how you
Yeah.
your credit card to save
Yeah.
points and save up for this. Like people want like the like, how can I do that pieces? But she might not have ever known that if she didn't ask her community questions. And so I think like in a weird way, like it is also them doing the work for you. But
Mm.
who wouldn't want the work done for them if it's easier? They can then provide more value to their community.
I love that. Not talking at your community, but talking with your community. Super, super crucial, super important. Well, Alex, I like to ask this question as we're wrapping up every episode, but what do you see as trends or things that people should watch out for in the marketing industry in the next maybe 3 to 5 years? Things are just changing so fast, right? So any things that you're seeing on the horizon?
Yeah, I think with social media, it's so hard to even look ahead maybe a year, but like 3 to 5 years, it's gonna be like unrecognizable. I think the really interesting thing that Instagram just put out is trial reels. And I think that a lot more platforms are going to shift you in the direction of like experiment, try, like throw stuff at the wall and see what works. And I think that like experimentation of social media as opposed to being like ultra curated, like we call Instagram the more curated platform and TikTok kind of the like chaos platform. I think
Totally.
more
Yeah.
platforms are going to lean into that chaos of like figure out what your niche is, figure out what works. Like you don't have like there's so many creators out there that like will block everyone they ever went to high school with and all their like I want to start trying to put content out there, but I don't want to be perceived by anyone I know. And I think that platforms are picking up on that and they're saying like, "Hey, we'll send this to like all of your non-followers so that it's like lower risk, you can experiment, but you still can put that content out." And so I think that room for experimentation and risk on social media is really going to be where we're steering in.
Interesting. Yeah, that'd be really cool to see how that evolves, beyond Instagram into other platforms, especially on the trial side. That's gonna be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Alex, if people want to get a hold of you, where can they find you?
So our website is just cucamonga.media. We're also on every social media platform. So same thing, cucamonga.media. And then I'm always on LinkedIn. So my personal LinkedIn is just Alix Condit. And big fan of LinkedIn as a platform. I think it's an underappreciated social media platform. So always feel free to DM me there.
Awesome. Well, Alex, thanks for coming on the show. It's been great having you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us in this episode of The Founders Corner, the podcast series for marketing firms and agencies looking to learn and level up their business. You can check out more podcasts and other content from OneBridge Accounting by following the links in the show notes. At OneBridge Accounting, we're all about helping marketing and creative firms organize their finances, maximize their profits, save cash, and automate their accounting and finance functions. Check out our other resources and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.